I think harm reduction is always a big part of medicine and things we always need to really think about, not just with psychedelics, but in general. It's always a good point to take, whether it's addiction or mental health or any avenue with that. So I think harm reduction is always something that we have to look at. And really what we're talking about is trying to do the most good and do it in the safest way, trying to get the most access to care, but do it in a way that's done right and it's done safe. The first thing I would do is I would try to get educated about psychedelics as much as I could.
We really do need to focus on education, and harm reduction is education. It's educating yourself about what the medicine is that you're doing, about the set and setting that you're doing it in, about setting an intention as to why you're doing it. Without an intention, you're just along for a ride. It is a medicine. It's great to have fun, but you have to be aware that without an intention, you're going into something completely blind.
First of all, educate yourself about whatever the compound is you're planning on taking, because they're very different. LSD is very different than MDMA, is very different than psilocybin, is very different from DMT, whatever it is, ketamine, they're all different. And so the first thing I would do is educate yourself. There are plenty of good websites out there, Arrowhead being one, that have really good, solid information about these compounds. And so I think the first thing to do is to educate yourself thoroughly about whatever it is you're planning on taking.
Go to MAP's website. They have a lot of information there that really opens the door and tells you kind of where things are at as far as the studies go, what the evidence is that's been shown with the studies thus far, show where we're at in the process with it. They kind of also have a breakdown of what it looks like to go through a psychedelic journey and what it would look like to have the therapy associated with it, so you'd have a kind of a better overall view.
I'm a huge proponent of, in terms of when it comes to harm reduction and just psychedelic accessibility, is that medicine should be accessible for all. What we really want to do is, like, first and foremost is education. Whether you're wanting to use it in a recreational setting or a clinical setting, do your due diligence around making sure that the people that you're working with or the medicines that you're taking, whether they're credible, they're pure, because it's really important to be not only an informed consumer, but a mindful consumer in that respect. What we're seeing is this sort of trend, or this, what I sort of refer to as like this frenetic energy around these medicines, whether it's like you're in the medical field and you're going into this for lucrative purposes, or there's just sort of this like hyper trend that like ketamine cures all, or psilocybin's gonna save my depression. And that's not really the movement. It's really about creating accessibility to different tools that we've had, for thousands of years, but now we're making them available in a way that hasn't been able to before. It's important, again, to not only be educated about it, but to go slow. And it's not about ingesting medicine and it's a silver bullet and it's a cure-all. It's about finding medicines that work for you. It's about exploring different options. There's no one size fits all. I think there's a lot of gatekeepers in this community around we have to do it like this, or it has to look like this. And that's just simply not true. When you work with medicine, it's like building like a friendship or a lover. It's like you make a connection with this medicine and you get to determine the boundaries with it. You get to determine how deep you want to work with it. It's a very, very personal experience, and I really want to put the onus back on people to empower themselves with that. I think that as we've moved into this community and with it becoming so trendy and sort of propagated, it's really important to understand that it's a personal choice. It's an individual choice in the sense that you do have a say in how much or how little or how deep you want to go.
And they're not for everyone. There are medical things that can get in the way of somebody having a healthy experience. And there are psychological things that can get in the way. So it is important to make sure that it's right for you. If I were to give my history into when I first learned about harm reduction, it would have been all the way back with being at Shoreline Amphitheater and realizing what RockMed was and what RockMed did, and that they partnered with the medical tent to actually provide space for people who are having a bad trip at a concert to be supported. My husband was at California Institute of Medical Studies at the time, so we knew people that volunteered with RockMed. It went even further at the Oregon Country Fair, the fair that the idea of Burning Man was birthed from. They had what is called Whitebird, and Whitebird took it a step further, where they actually had tents next to the stage that were set up in a very beautiful way. I mean, you walked in and it was just the colors, the pillows, the everything, the set and setting. They took the set and setting and they brought it to the space so that people who were having trouble were supported not only by individuals who knew how to support them, but in a set and setting that was also very calming and supportive. From there, when we moved back to the East Coast, I realized that it was a concept that still wasn't really happening. So I was really glad when I saw that Harmonia had started in Asheville and that Zendo Project had started with MAPS, which are training sites where you can actually use them at your functions for harm reduction, and they actually provide trainings for people to learn about how to hold space for people.
The other thing that I think is very important to know about is set and setting. Set being what is the mental space that you're bringing to the experience, what are your hopes and goals for the experience, what are your fears about the experience, what do you hope to gain from it, why are you using this compound, is it for self-exploration, is it for healing, is it for whatever, but making sure that the set has been thought through. And then setting is also very important. We need to be thinking about where we're doing these things. Is it a safe place? Are we going to be with people that we trust? Are we going to be able to be comfortable? And safety is the main thing, is finding somewhere and people that you are with that are safe.
Without the right set and setting, and without the right intention, and without the right support system, it could become a really negative experience, especially if you find yourself in an emergency room with people that don't know how to support you. It is your responsibility, if you're going to do these medicines, to educate yourself, to set your intention, and to be aware of your set and setting.
They are very strong, and we can't always predict what's going to come up in a psychedelic experience. That was one of the things that threw the government and the researchers back in the 60s, is why they were getting so many varied responses from people from the same compound, from the same person over time, and they figured out a lot of it was due to set and setting. So we've learned a lot more about psychedelics since then, and so I think it would be very important if somebody was considering using these for whatever purpose to take the time to educate themselves and to definitely learn about the importance of set and setting.
Most importantly, I think that this isn't talked about a lot. Working with medicine and community, it can be really powerful. Right now we see it a lot in individual work, whether it's like through CAP or ketamine, or one-on-one sessions, but there is something that's been overlooked in our culture for a very long time, which is healing inside of community. When you combine that with psychedelics, you have a very, very powerful platform to work with. And so I would encourage anybody that's interested with working with medicines to see if they can find an opportunity where there is a community-based approach. It makes it more accessible in terms of financial, contribution. And also when you have the support of those around you, and you feel a sense of safety in your container, there's a vulnerability that can transpire in your process, and vulnerability is the precursor to transformation.
What we're really looking for, if we're talking about harm reduction, is also access to care. We want everybody who really needs this kind of treatment to be able to get it.
Our goal, and I think the goal in general with psychedelic medicine, is also to help train the people out there that are our helpers in society, so that they too can know how to support people better when they're in this state. If we all are going to be grown-ups and we're all going to say that we want to have these freedoms, well, with freedom comes responsibility. And I think that the idea of decriminalization without education, we've already seen what's happening. And I think where we need to go instead is that we need to take a soft approach where we bring it in and we educate as we create a model on what's best practice.
If you're going for medicine and you want to do it in, for therapeutic purposes, like set and setting. We've been talking about this forever, like making sure that you feel safe in those spaces, because there's a lot of people that are in this world and in this community that their intentions may be questionable, or they might not be able to provide the safety that you actually need, because everybody comes to the table with something different. Again, whether you're showing up with anxiety, depression, PTSD, sensitivity to certain types of folks, or just past experiences, like we all come to the table with different challenges and different things that we want to work on, and I want to empower people. You're paying for a service, you're showing up for a service, and to ask for what you need so that you can have a really powerful experience, versus being on, the receiving end and not feeling like you have choice and opportunity. Like really coming at it. That's part of being trauma informed, and part of working in, harm reduction is having choice and having optionality and having a sense of agency. Take the time and go slow to build your relationship with these medicines, and you might find that one blows you, away, and others you don't really favor so much, or some in combination. It's very personal, and it is a definite worthwhile journey.
Thank you for watching, and please remember to like this video and to subscribe to our channel.
For more information or to make a donation towards our cause, please visit our website.